Welcome to the District 5 Candidates Night. I'm your host, Dana Nichols, editor of the Calaveras Enterprise, and I'm very pleased that with us tonight are Bob Bowerman, Clyde Clapp, Bruce Judici, and David Tuno, candidates for District 5 in the event that the current supervisor, Steve Kearney, is recalled on November 8. So we're going to have a series of questions, and I'm going to start with Mr. Bowerman. Tell us a little about yourself and why you are running for District 5.
Thank you, Dana. I'm Bob Bowerman. I'm a second executive for advertising. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied here already. And I'm an executive advertising executive for 45 years. And it's amazing that I'm doing this. I thought I was going to retire, and I had a lot of friends come up to me and say, "Bob, step up. We need your help. You bring common sense to the table." There are a lot of issues in the county, and some of them are real serious, and if we don't do them right, it's going to hurt a whole lot of people. I just can't sit back and let that happen if I think I can make a difference. I can make a difference, and we're going to be okay. We really are. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of patience. It's going to take a lot of compromise. Okay? So that's kind of where I'm at with this.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Clapp, tell us a little about yourself.
My name's Clyde. I moved up to Valley Springs in the mid-70s. I got my contractor's license in 1974. I built in the Bay Area and then moved up here in the late 70s. In fact, the railroad train was still coming through town when I moved up here. I invested most of my retirement stuff up here. I have about a dozen homes in District 5 alone, and then other properties and stuff spread out through the county and other counties. And so I got involved in this because this is not the way I want to see my community go, and I have a lot invested. If Valley Springs goes down the tubes, a chunk of my retirement goes with it. So I have skin in the game. I mean, I can't afford to have it go upside down on us. And when I moved to Valley Springs, I umpired Little League in the late 70s, early 80s. And so if you can survive Little League game, then you can survive anything, because during a Little League game, half the parents think you're the best umpire in the world, and the other half thought you're the worst in the world. So you learn how to compromise with that. And then with the stuff that started going on, because like I said, I've been a developer. I developed up here and in the Bay Area. And when I start seeing Olive Orchard Road going upside down, where they walked away from a contract with a developer who was supposed to put 1.2 miles of road in, then that caught my attention, and now here I am. So I think I can do a great job at this. I've been going to supervisors' meetings for 30 years up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Clyde. Bruce, tell us about yourself.
My name is Bruce Judici. I was born and raised in San Rafael, California. Went to public schools in San Rafael. Went to college at UC Davis. Got a master's degree in agricultural economics with a sort of a emphasis in development economics. There I met my wife-to-be. She was going to veterinary school. We've been married 32 years. And after graduation, I went to work in nonprofit financial work, and have been doing that ever since. My wife and I, we bought a veterinary clinic. We operated it for 5 years and then sold it and adopted 2 girls at the same time. They're 21 years old now. And We have lived in Calaveras County for 26 years in the same home. And so I've worked in many different nonprofits with budgets ranging from like $3 or $4 million up to $25 million. And so my major, currently I work for Amador Tuolumne Community Action Agency as the fiscal officer. That's the main financial person. And in fact, this week we're going through an audit. So every year, a nonprofit or a joint powers agreement agency has to go through an audit to make certain that your books are clean and that you're serving the public interest. So and that your contracts are being served. So my interest in running is to add a fiscal component to the Board of Supervisors. I just don't see that right now. People talk about budgets, and they talk about $3.7 million, and they talk about vague numbers, but I don't see anybody really paying attention to where money is being spent and how it can be used to further what we're trying to do here. So, and if cannabis initiative passes, I think it's going to be more imperative for a supervisor who knows his way around a financial statement to be on the board. So that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Bruce. David, please tell us a little about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting us all here and putting this event together. My name is David Tuno. I am a trial consultant. I've been a trial consultant for 27 years. Some people know them as jury consultants. I worked on a lot of cases, most of which nobody would ever hear of, where there might have been a lot of money at stake but not much fame. Of the ones that you've heard of, Rodney King among them. I was a television commentator for the O.J. Simpson case and in the newspapers on that case and other cases, various networks, Fox and CBS and NBC and MSNBC and ABC in L.A. On various trials. The Unabomber case is another example. I have a master's degree in communications from the University of Portland. I used to be a high school teacher, and I was also a radio news announcer, had a radio news talk show talking about county politics and county news up in Oregon in Washington County. I was information director for Oregon State University for a while, and all that came before I was a trial consultant. I moved to Valley Springs with my wife after investigating communities all over the West, all of the western states. We flew around and drove around and looked and looked and looked and decided Valley Springs was the place to live. And I still think that. However, there's some problems that I've gotten involved in, and I'd like to be a part of the solution to them. I was on the Planning Commission, worked very hard on the general plan, and I've written articles and reports on FEMA to help people with their flood problems. That was picked up by websites all over the country, got calls from people all the way from back east, New Jersey and South Carolina on their FEMA problems. And I also wrote articles on the CalPERS debt problem that the county faces and various other issues. For a while I was a columnist for the paper, and I was able to speak on these issues. So now I am running for supervisor if Mr. Kearney is replaced, primarily because of the marijuana problem. So that's the focus of my attention.
Thank you, David. We're going to jump right into the first question, and it actually is about the cannabis industry. And so, Clyde, I'm going to ask you to go first on this one. And forgive me, it's a little bit complicated, but I want to know what your approach is going to be to addressing the cannabis industry, whether you favor a ban, regulation, or leaving it unregulated, and if you want to ban it, how to enforce, and if you want to regulate, what approach you would take. So I know that's a lot, but tell us, please, how you would approach the cannabis industry.
Well, the first part of the question is I think that we're going to be changing our county radically, and I think that's something the people of the county should decide. I think it should go to the ballot and be voted on. I don't think the 4 people or 5 people should make the vote and decide where all of us are going to be. That's my opinion on that part. To regulate it, we have the procedures already already existing. I mean, if I pull a permit for a house, I go down and I apply for a permit. I don't start building my house until the permit's issued. You don't get a permit and then, apply for a permit and then build your house and then go, oh, now what are we going to do? The house is already built. So I think the Board of Supervisors and everything went backwards on it. They should have did it just like the construction. And because it's the same thing. You give the plot plans in. It's the exact same procedure as getting a permit for a house, except for you don't start building a house until you have your permit in hand. So I would, so that part just would never happen. Where we're at right now, it would never happen if I was on the board or had anything to say with it. So that's pretty much it. I would run it just like any other permit procedures that you get in the county. And this was done completely backwards. It shouldn't have been done the way it was.
All right.
So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Clyde. Bruce, what would be your approach to the cannabis industry?
Well, I think the reason why it was approached in the way it was is that after the fire, I think a lot of people realized just how much growing was already happening up in the hills. And given that a lot of folks' livelihoods are based on that, I think that was sort of a difficult decision to go about banning it and immediately, and then also finding the resources that public safety officials would have to have in order to do that sort of thing. It's at the point of when the emergency ordinance was adopted, it seemed that was the most reasonable thing to do, given where the land grab was happening and people were selling, their properties to folks who were coming in from outside and growing in a very unregulated way. So the urgency ordinance, I agree, was the proper way to go, and that's what we live under right now. And so the attempt now is to pass a Measure D that will essentially solidify that and turn that into the sort of the foundation upon which the county would build. And I don't know that I'm for Measure D. Measure C, I believe, is a tax, a reasonable tax on production that I think this county desperately needs. But the Measure D, I would rather see the decision-making ability be retained with the Board of Supervisors, so that if the environmental impact report that comes back, if there needs to be some changes, the board can more easily change things. Whereas it seems though, even though last night's forum sort of tried to splash water on it, I think still the initiative is going to be more difficult to change than the urgency ordinance. And so I think I'd rather see that decision-making remain with the supervisors.
Thank you, Bruce. David, how would you address the cannabis industry?
The way I'm addressing it right now is I'm full-time working on the ban initiative, which thousands of people so far have signed, because I agree with Clyde that 4 people should not have made the decision to fundamentally change the nature of this county, the culture of the county, the livability of the county. He's absolutely right on that point. And I believe the ban initiative will be on the ballot and it will pass, because most of the people in the county don't want the changes that they are seeing. It's not, as Sheriff DiPacilio said, it doesn't belong in this county. Marijuana doesn't belong in this county. He is in favor of a ban. He says he can enforce a ban. We'll take him at his word. We also have ex-Sheriff Downham and Garrison, who I met with a few days ago. They are both in favor of a ban. Barbara Yook, the Attorney General, is in favor. District Attorney is in favor of a ban. All of the people that really have their finger on the pulse of law enforcement and what is happening in this county with respect to the marijuana growing activities are for a ban. And I'm with it. I'm out there every day practically collecting signatures. I've got a pretty good tan to show for it. Been doing it all summer. And I believe that the citizens of this county would like for the county to get back to being a livable place, a place where you would want to bring a family and raise a family, and senior citizens can retire here, and we can return it to a beautiful, livable place to retire and raise a family. And right now, it isn't that. So I'm in favor of getting it back to that, and that means a ban on the activities that we see right now.
Thank you, David. Bob, how would you approach the marijuana industry?
Well, a little over a week ago, Prohibition, which is the federal ban on cannabis, was 80 years old. It should be pretty obvious by now that bans don't work. I mean, with all the resources of the federal government for 80 years, we now have 26 states with legal medical. We have 4 states with recreational, plus Washington, D.C. with recreational. We have 16 more states that have decriminalized it. We have 9 states on the ballot this year to legalize it. California, Prop 64 is at 71% approval rating. Bans don't work. No matter how much money you throw at it, no matter how many hundreds of thousands of people you throw in jail, bans don't work. We need to get that. It's not an illegal drug. It's been legal in California for 20 years. How would I handle it? Measure D. I do agree with David and with Clyde on parts. I think we need to take it away from the county supervisors. We need to put it in stone, the foundation. Measure D does that. And roll with it. Now, with regulations, Measure D and Measure C, all they are is stepping stones. It's going to take a lot more than that. We need to add additional ordinances, for instance, background checks for employees. There's a whole lot of things that we need to add. That's not the whole picture. That's just the basics. So what would I do? I would follow through and vote yes on Measure C, yes on D, and then I'd vote yes on me too, because I know how to fix this.
Thank you, Bob. So the next question we're going to take on is one that's somewhat specific to District 5 because, as you all know, there had been some controversy over a proposed hot batch mix asphalt plant. What's your take on how the county government and the Board of Supervisors handled the application to put an asphalt plant at Hogan Quarry near Valley Springs? And I'm going to ask Bruce that you go first on this one.
I think the reason why we're here, the reason why there's a recall, is primarily because the perception was that Stephen Kearney, our current supervisor, was not responsive to citizen complaints about and concerns about the apparent quick decision-making that went through the permitting process to get a hot asphalt plant approved for the gravel site at the base of New Hogan Dam. The concern that people raised about air pollution quality, about number of trucks going through, about water pollution, were valid concerns. And what the recall people are saying is, listen to our concerns, get a conditional use permit here where we can see whether or not this thing is going to work, and put conditions on the use permit. The process did not seem to be followed. It was sort of railroaded, and to the point where the planning head for the county said, we should go slowly and we should do an environmental impact report on this. The process slowed to a halt when that was mentioned, and now there is a production facility over by Carson Hill, which has brought no controversy. I think the process is like what Clyde was saying. First you get the permit and then you begin to operate. And it seemed like in this case the permitting process was not allowed to go through. In the same way that that Steve Kearney was on the wrong side of a Trinitas decision that went south when when that thing that was put into place avoided the planning process. And so I think that's the reason why we're here tonight, is because of that process.
Thank you, Bruce. David, you served on the Planning Commission when some of the questions about this were addressed. Please tell us your take on how it was handled.
Yes, I'll react to some of what Bruce has said. I don't recall seeing Bruce at the hearings for the asphalt plant, and there were numerous, and they were over a period of months. So to say that process was not followed and that it was railroaded is simply not true. There were countless hours of planning commission time, hearing time that was put into this. And it was a multi-step process. And sometimes we lose sight of the steps. Step number one was, is a hot batch asphalt plant permitted in the M2 zone by county code? M2 zone is what Hogan Quarry is. It's an M2 zone. It's been M2 zone forever. Before the houses were built, it's always been that. The answer was yes. By definition, asphalt plant is allowed in that county code. Now, county code is a law, and the planning commissioners and the board of supervisors, now planning commissioners don't make rulings, they make recommendations. Board of supervisors makes rulings. That's how it works. So people have the luxury of saying, well, I don't want to live next to an asphalt plant. And of course, nobody does. But the elected leaders have an obligation to follow the law. And the county code is the law. And county code allows an asphalt plant in M2 zone, so that you really don't have a choice but to say yes to that particular point. Otherwise, the county exposes itself to a lawsuit, and they will absolutely lose. Second point was, does it require an authority to construct an environmental review for an authority to construct on the air quality issues? Yes, it does. By state law, it does. We follow the state law in the Planning Commission. The Board of Supervisors agreed with us. By state law, it requires a full environmental review for air quality, and that was being done. Don't know what the stage of it is right now, but that was part of the process. And the answer is longer than I have time for right now, but the process absolutely was followed to the nth degree.
Thank you, David. And the authority to construct studies never got done because the proponents basically didn't pay for it, so that they moved on to another site for the time being.
Okay, so the status of that is it's a moot point.
But anyway, Bob, what's your take on how the asphalt plant was handled?
It was a mess. It was a total mess, and that I think everyone did the best they could with the situation that they had. Do I want an asphalt plant? No. I used to live right down the street from it too, and that, no, thank you. But we do have to follow the law. Would I have voted no on it? Yes, I would have voted no, because that's what our public wanted. Okay. And sometimes you have to, yes, you have to follow the law. There's no question about that. But you also have to look and represent the people around you. You need to, if they don't want it so bad, you need to be looking for ways to stop it. Without being there, it'd be hard for me to say, well, I would do this, I would do that. The one thing I would do is I would try to figure out a way to stop it legally. Okay. There was enough outcry on that I don't see. If you can't stop it, then you need to step up and explain why you can't. Okay. Do they need to go through every test imaginable? Yes, they do. There's no question about that. But that was a whole messy situation. I don't know if there was a win-win answer for Steve or anybody else on that one. And it's really a shame, because there've got to be answers. You've got to be able to find them. Sometimes you just have to dig a little deeper to find them.
Thank you, Bob. Clyde, I know you were present at a number of those hearings. Please tell us your take on how the asphalt plant was handled.
I thought it was horrible. Not only was that the take there, but the quarry is untrue that the quarry's always been there. There was a small hole dug there. It was a pothole mine when they put the reservoir in, and then it was shut down because Silver Rapids roads didn't go all the way through the quarry. It was a dead where the water treatment plant is. There used to be a cul-de-sac there, so there was no way to actually operate the quarry until the subdivision came in, because when Rancho came in, they put Silver Rapids in, and there was actually a feasible way of getting to the quarry at that point. And I was there when they actually had the conditional use permit done, because unlike today, 35 years ago, the supervisors usually actually come to your house and ask you what you thought about something like putting a quarry next to your house. And so Dixon, Fox, myself, and another family was there because there was only about 20 homes in Rancho at the time when it went in. And they asked us what we wanted, and we wanted to have Silver Rapids brought up to highway standards. And Fox wanted, he lives on the corner of Silver Rapids and Hart-Vixen, he wanted a four-way stop there, which looked stupid because La Catina wasn't here then, so there was no, Hart-Vixen didn't go in, it was a dead end. And so they put the four-way stop there is so they could actually slow the trucks down. And so we got all our conditions, and we had a time use on it. So the quarry was a conditional use permit up until just recently.
Thank you, Clyde. So the next question, David, I'm going to ask you to start. The county government this year, according to the county administrative officer, is using one-time funding to hire some new staff, including much-needed jail staff. But this creates ongoing costs, even though it's one-time money. Do you favor or oppose taking this risk, and why or why not?
I'm opposed to it because it's short-sighted. It is a red flag that you are not managing your money properly when you have to take from your savings account, as you would at home, as we all would if we were managing our own household budgets. If we're having to dip into our savings to meet everyday needs, then there's a problem. It means that something's wrong with our lifestyle, for example. And in the county government, it means something's wrong with your budget. Somewhere you're overspending, and you have to make some hard choices to make the cuts necessary to bring the expenditures in line with the income. So I'm not in favor of doing that. You end up hiring people, training them, and then you have to let them go because you're out of money at the end of the year or the next year. So it's a bad practice.
Thank you, David. Bob, what do you feel about the risk of using one-time money for ongoing positions?
It's risky. There's no question about that. Sometimes you do have to take risks. We've been laying off teachers, deputies. We've been going backwards in our county for, a decade or so now. That continuously in the red with no answers. And so sometimes you just have to stop and say that's enough. And you got to work on ways to correct that. Measure C is going to correct that. And so I think the people that have jumped ahead and gone with the risk, they're doing what they have to do to stop the backwards direction we've been going. I'm not a gambler. I don't like risk. I'm a very conservative person. But sometimes you just have to kind of close your eyes and go for it. I think that's what they did. But I also feel that when they did that, they were looking further ahead and looking for answers so that it's not just going to be a one-time shot. And with Measure C, I think they were looking at that.
Thank you, Bob. Clyde, what's your take on the use of the one-time money for ongoing positions?
Well, I agree with what Dave said, but to be truthful, I think you're asking me to second-guess somebody on what the decisions they made. We have great department heads in this county. We're losing them, but we do have great department heads. And when I was in construction doing developments and stuff, I relied a lot on my subs. I hired good subs. I hired that, and I didn't try to second guess them. I was the final person to make that decision, which a supervisor is. But I relied heavily on my attorneys, on my engineers, on my subcontractors, and I think that's the role of a supervisor, is relying on those department heads. And the problem we have right now is we have supervisors that think they know best, and they're disregarding everything they're told by legal counsel, by staff, and that's the reason we're in the situation of the recall now, is that for just disregarding good, competent advice and just going out on their own. I think that's a mistake. I wouldn't run my business that way, and I wouldn't run a county that way.
Thank you, Clyde. Bruce, you work in finance. What do you think about this practice?
Well, you're never supposed to use long-term money for short-term expenses, and that's what this essentially would be. And I just wonder to what extent the folks who are overseeing these budgets and overseeing the financial statements really understand where we're going. We have it's a large budget. We have a lot of contracted costs that are required, and I don't know if some of the expenses that they're paying for with this one-time money is required because of some contract that Calaveras County entered into. But I would be for a much more thorough going through of all of our financial statements, not just passing a budget in 2 days and then forgetting it for a year, but actually going through and having at least quarterly financial statements that would be compared with budget to find out where we're going, where we are, especially if if there is going to be any new money coming in, and especially if there's not going to be any new money coming in. My understanding, and I'd read somewhere that the county was going to have a major problem in enforcing a ban if there was going to be if the ban was going to go into effect with the number of deputies that they have, and that it was going to be very it was going to be like a disaster for us to try to enforce a ban with given the amount of money that we have coming in. A lot of people in this county are not real thrilled with new taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, any sort of tax, and so Measure C would be a welcome influx of money that would have not been counted on before, and that would be ongoing funds, and hopefully that would be something that could fund ongoing expenses. But if we're in a situation where Measure C doesn't pass and a ban isn't in effect, I think the county is going to be in a world of hurt, and I think it's going to be real difficult to see what sort of cuts are going to have to be made or what other sort of revenue sources. And I think it's going to be really important for the Board of Supervisors to be real honest with citizens and say what's going to happen financially.
I'm going to jump to the question of the county's economy. And Bob, I'm going to have you go first. What, if anything, can the county government do to promote economic prosperity here?
We have a lot of ways to go. Tourism is one. We have beautiful areas that shouldn't be that hard to draw people from the valley and the Bay Area up here to come up and enjoy our beautiful areas and lakes and streams and leave their money and go home. I think we can do that. But I think we need to take it a step further. If we really want to improve the economy, we do need to add some more jobs. I really don't want to see any more businesses come into District 5. Let's send them over to District 1 to Valley Springs. We're a rural area, and we kind of like to keep it that way. But I'd like to see some workshops and that on home-based businesses. With the Internet, it's incredible to how much money you can make working from home now. I ran a multi-million-dollar ad agency concepts out of my home in Valley Springs, and because of the Internet, okay? And, of course, people all over the country working with me. But there's workshops that train people how to make money. I've been helping people make money my entire life. That's what a good ad man does. So is it hard? It is. It's really pretty hard, but not that much. There are a lot of other areas. We have a group of people already in place that can actually go out and recruit businesses to come into Valley Springs. They're called the real estate folks. Okay, they're already out there. What we need to do is give them incentives, give them a presentation, and work with them so they can fine-tune their presentation to go out and recruit businesses to come to Valley Springs. We have a beautiful area, and Valley Springs is perfect for it. We could use a lot more industry here, but not asphalt plants.
Thank you, Bob. Clyde, what can the county government do to promote economic prosperity?
Well, I moved up here, like I said, nearly 40 years ago, and we had the train coming through town twice a week. We had the cement plant going, which is a Fortune 500 company. We had Bendix going. We had the lumber mill going on Wallace. There was work everywhere, and this was the poorest community you could find. When I moved up here, it was dirt poor. And all the factories have left. The train doesn't run through town anymore, and I think Valley Springs is prospering. I mean, everyone says we need jobs. When we had jobs, it was doing terrible because what happened is the retirement people came up here, they brought their money, they put it in the bank, and they started buying stuff. And you have La Catena, you have Rancho been built out. And so, to me, yeah, we don't have an asphalt plant, but who cares? I mean, we're doing so much better now than we were 40 years ago. I can't see where everyone's going, oh, look what's going on. We're dying. We're doing extremely good. We were in Wall Street Journal on the front page, the fastest growing county in the United States when we were doing. And yeah, things got bad in 07, 08 when we had the crash. And you watch how bad it gets when you start doing all the cannabis farms and stuff, and you get the old people leaving, like me and other people. Because when we leave, I have friends. My friend Joe Kelly left. Well, when Joe left, he took his $1 million out of the bank and went to Montana with it. And there's a lot of people leaving with their money now. And so, yeah, you might get your factories and stuff, but you're going to get a poor community again, too, when you run all the people with the money out.
Thank you, Clyde. Bruce, what can the county government do to promote economic prosperity?
I think it would be really important to have local hearings in District 5 to find out what our citizenry wants, because we do have a history of no businesses in District 5, and I think a lot of people like it that way. There are a lot of folks who are commuting to the Bay Area or to Stockton as well for jobs. There are virtually no educational opportunities past high school in our district or even in District 1, and so a lot of jobs will follow an educated workforce. And if we can have a satellite or some sort of presence for Delta College, which I think we really should, because we do pay into that district, either in Toyon or Jenny Lind, or have classes or online classes where we can keep people here, keep young people here, where they can have families. I've telecommuted myself for financial work. It's really easy these days, and more and more work can be done on the internet. And so without having to build brick and mortar in District 5, we can have some jobs, as Bob mentioned. Also, I really do think that if we do get Measure C money coming in, I would like to see some sort of investment, some sort of infrastructure investment. Measure C money might be one-time money. It might be the influx might be really it's going to be unpredictable. So I don't think you can base your budget on on Measure C money. But I would like to see some sort of regional park in Valley Springs, something like a soccer field or a softball field that could attract folks from outside of town, and they would spend money in Valley Springs and generate jobs.
Thank you, Bruce. David, what can the county government do to promote economic prosperity?
Well, first of all, I don't know why people are talking about brick and mortar facilities in District 5. There's no commercial zone space, so that's out. I mean, there's just a spot here and there. That's just it's not an issue at all for District 5. Of course, it's an issue for the county as a whole. So when you've got an asset like Calaveras County and you want to promote it, you describe the asset. What is it? It's a very beautiful place to live. It's a beautiful place to visit, to recreate, and so you have, lo and behold, a tourism industry. We've already got that. In my opinion, the marijuana issue is going to destroy that, so that's a terrible idea. We can sell it, the county, based upon tourism, and we can grow that, but not if we're also trying to be Cannabis County. We also need a more diversified economic base. And in terms of the county, the way it's laid out, the topography of it, the west end of the county, the greater Valley Springs area makes the most sense for doing that. The Tom Coe property is a prime example of that. If anybody has seen Tom Coe's plans for what would happen to that 700 acres, I believe it is, It's a fabulous plan. It's visionary. School facilities, industrial facilities, a waste water treatment plant, and that's the way to grow a county. You take a nice big piece of land like that, and an owner with a vision who wants to do it, wants to do the right thing by the county, and you make it easier for them instead of making it more difficult for them via regulations, which is, in large part is what we have done in the past.
Thank you, David. So, part of what draws tourists is the beautiful forests, and it's not as visible in District 5, but a lot of those forests are dying. So this one I'm going to start with Clyde. What should the county government do to address the tree mortality crisis?
I think that's a question for the Department of Forestry. I know I have property up in Strawberry and stuff, and I got letters and stuff from them to come on my property and remove dead trees and stuff, and that's what they do. So I think they're active at it. From my experience with them, I have 2 parcels that I filled out applications. They've sent applications for me to fill out to give them permission to go on and remove trees. So I think they're doing it.
Thank you, Clyde. Bruce, what should the county government do to address the tree mortality crisis?
Well, the trees that are up there are a real burden. It's real difficult to see any sort of asset in them. We could try to work on chipping or turning it into firewood or selling it or hiring logging firms who are totally booked right now in terms of clearing off land that they already own, SPI. But right now, what the county can do is listen to people, find out if there's any financing available to remove trees, take out the most dangerous trees that are a hazard to people, and it's going to take a long time. It's just like it took a long time to get into this mess. These trees haven't just started dying this year. It's been a long time coming. It's going to be a long time before we can clear out what is a hazard right now.
Thank you, Bruce. David, what should the county government do to address the tree mortality crisis?
Well, first of all, listen to the scientists, and I'm not one when it comes to trees or entomologies. I don't know how the life cycle of the bark beetle or any of that, but I do know that a dead tree has to be cut down. It's going to come down anyway. It's either going to come down on a power line or a house or a person, but it's going to come down. So they have to come down, and they should be replanted. Is the main thing. And what has happened in the Butte fire is that, of course, the Butte fire wiped out a lot of trees, and instead of replanting, a lot of those properties were bulldozed to make room for a pot farm. So instead of getting the replanting process going, we took the opposite route. The trees have to go, and they have to be replanted if we want a vibrant forest in the future. They will grow again. I mean, it takes a long time, but it will happen. So, I mean, I would listen to the scientists in terms of laying out a cycle for what the county can expect if we start cutting now and replanting now. At what point will we have a beautiful upslope area in the county again? At what point will it look like it used to a few years ago? I don't know when that is, but I expect it's going to be a few decades. And it's unfortunate, but it's not going to go away, and the trees aren't going to just come back to life.
Thank you, David. Bob, how would you address the tree mortality crisis?
There's a program in place right now, partially funded by the federal government, the state, and of course Calaveras, to deal with the trees, both for the fire and the beetle. And we found out last week that it's on hold. It's being delayed again. And that's wrong. These trees are a hazard. They're going to become, a fuel for the next fire. It's going to be a total mess. We got winter coming. We've hired a company to go in and clean the mess up. And I understand there's politics involved. There's a frog in the way. I got that. And my question to them was real simple. We have a problem over here where there's an endangered species, a frog, and it's way over here. On this end, we have no frogs. Why have we stopped the entire project because of a problem over here? Why not start over here and work your way? By the time they get there, the situation regarding the frog will be worked out. But no, the answer was, well, no, we have to have the whole thing or we can't do it. And so we're working it. Okay, I've been told that sometimes I get a little pushy. This will be one of those times. If this company cannot get their act together and get started right now, fire them. Just find someone that will.
Thank you, Bob. I'm going to start with Bruce for the next one. And I don't live in District 5, so I'm hoping you can give me some insight. District 5 has the distinction of being the Calaveras County Supervisor District that currently has the longest history of single-term supervisors. Why is that, and is it a problem?
I think it's definitely it's a problem. I mean, this is we're facing a recall election, so it's like this supervisor is people want to replace him after 2 years, so it's not even the 4-year cycle here. So it's gotten out of hand. It's the folks who we elect. I think people hope that they will do miracles. They will turn the government into something that will get off their backs at the same time as helping to to fill the potholes or to do other things that government does. And I think the problem is that there's a lot of folks in District 5 who don't necessarily want government, don't necessarily like government, and then if you elect somebody to actually do what government does, then they're not going to like what that person does, and they're going to replace them. And I think we have a really good community in District 5. I mean, I think neighbors help each other. It's a good community, but there's a lot of distrust with what government does and what it can, because it's thought of as being them. It's thought of as being somebody outside of our community doing something to them, rather than being within our community and doing something with them and being side by side and getting things done together. And I think I would like to really work on bringing people together to see what government can do all together with us, with other districts, and be pulling in the same direction. Because I think fighting government is counterproductive. I think we should really try to make use of what resources we have and try to be as efficient with them as we can be.
Thank you, Bruce. David, what's your take on the single-term supervisor streak we've had in District 5?
You know, I don't pretend to be able to psychoanalyze the electorate in District 5. As far as I can say, they're very active people, and then sometimes it turns out this way when people are active and involved. So it is what it is. I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze them. A couple of years ago, I decided that I was going to run for supervisor. I had my website made, and I had my bank account and my FPPC filings and whatnot, and I was all ready to pull the trigger on that. And then Steve Kearney announced that he was going to run, and so I started asking people about Steve Kearney. And you know what? That's a guy I can get behind. That's a guy I can vote for. He's a popular guy. He's business experience, and I like that. And so I decided, you know what? I'll take a back seat and vote for Steve Kearney, and I did that. And then the recall effort was successful to put it on the ballot. While at the same time I was working on the anti-pot issue, and I know that I'm the strongest candidate for that, and I believe that is the most important issue to the whole county, not just District 5, but the entire county. So I decided, if he's going to get recalled, if it does happen, I would rather see me in that seat, especially for that reason, and together with all of the work that I put into the county, the general plan and the various other issues that I've been on top of for a number of years now. So that's why I'm sitting here, is because of the recall and the fact that Steve voted for the urgency ordinance, which I think was a huge mistake. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Thank
you, David. Bob, what's your take on the series of one-term supervisors we've had?
Well, I'm going to change that. I'm already figuring out what I'm going to do for re-election. I think the whole thing is really communication. Steve's a good guy, and I think he has done a very, very good job, okay, in a lot of areas. But when that first recall sign came up, what I think he should have done is gone to that house and sat down and went, wow, what's up? And sit down and talk. I've spent a lifetime in communications, not with degrees or anything, but living it, working it. I'm a second-generation ad man. That's what I've done. And so you need to communicate. What I plan on doing is constant communication. Even already I've put on my business cards a special hotline that people can call and ask anything they want. I'm more than happy to sit down with them and talk about it. So, the recall, yeah, it's happening, and if Steve loses, then I need to win that for a lot of reasons, and I think I will. And I think I'm going to get reelected in 2 years. And the biggest thing we need to do is communicate. For instance, let's take the cannabis issue, okay? It's been regulated for 4 months. It's not a light switch. You can't just go click and it's changed. It's going to take 2 years. So I plan on being a good supervisor over the next 2 years, but I also plan on, within that 2 years, solving the cannabis problem here in Calaveras County. And I'm definitely the most person qualified to do that. So that's the direction I'm going. I don't see another recall coming for a long, long time.
Thank you, Bob. Clyde, what's your take on why we've had so many one-term supervisors in District 5?
When I moved here, you had Jack Fisher was supervisor when I moved in, and he was supervisor for 16 years. Then Wes Hodson ran against him and won, and I supported Wes Hodson, and Jack just passed away probably about 6 months ago, him and his wife. And Wes, he left supervisor to be on the school board, and then left that, and I think he became on the planning commissioner for a supervisor. So District 5 is definitely engaged in their community. That's one thing I love District 5 for. Not only is it just beautiful, but most of the people there are comfortably where they're not having to go out and work 8 hours a day just to make it. They have time on their hands. And they're engaged with their community. And if someone does something in their community and they write 1,000 letters to the board and say, we don't want this, and the board throws them in the trash can, I can pretty well guarantee Bob, if he does that, will be recalled. Mm-hmm. And it's like he's saying, and it's not, I was a supporter of Steve. I mean, the barbershop put him over the top. If it wasn't for the barbershop, Marty Crane would have been supervisor and not him. And so, saying that, I mean, I felt responsible for what he was doing. And he went off on the run, and he started doing away with contracts that was made by the county. And Wes Hodson was one that made the contract with the developer for developing that 1.2 miles of road. So he was aware of it. And so, yeah, if you go against the people and the people don't want something, you say they're going to get it because you know best, I guarantee you in District 5 they're going to recall you. And if I'm district supervisor there and I don't listen to people, I deserve to be recalled.
Thank you, Clyde. We're at the end of our time, gentlemen. So I'm going to ask David to go first, but please give us your concluding comments.
Well, thanks again for the invitation. I want to emphasize that county's at a crossroads here. 4 people made the decision to fundamentally change the culture of the county. And that's wrong. It should have been a citizen's decision across the board. It never should have happened. Now, we've got a couple of opportunities for the citizens now to weigh in on this issue. There's Measure D coming up, which allows the marijuana growing at least to the extent of the urgency ordinance, if not broader than that. The sheriff says it's more liberal than the urgency ordinance. So I would encourage everybody to vote no on that. The ban commercial cultivation marijuana initiative is in the final phase of signature gathering. We're going to make our numbers. You're going to have a choice to vote for it come spring in a special election if the board does not adopt it in the meantime. This is the crossroads we're at. We've got to solve this problem and then get back to the business of making Calaveras County a prosperous place to live, but also a place that you'd want to live in. And right now, we've lost sight of that.
Thank you, David. Bob, concluding comments.
Cannabis, okay, we've gotten pretty good at picking and choosing what we're going to say, quoting the sheriff, okay? Because the sheriff also said that bans don't work. He also said that we can't afford it, okay? So we're all getting pretty good at picking and choosing what we want to believe he said, okay? Here's the bottom line, that cannabis has been here for a long time. It's not going anywhere, and we can either face reality and deal with it. What I think we need to do is real simple. We need to get control of it. We need to put in strict regulations. We need to tax it, give our law enforcement enough money to enforce it, the new regulations. And, you know, and that's what I think we have to do on that. Now, I agree with David on a couple of things, okay? I think we need to let the public pick this, okay? Measure D is on the ballot. Measure C is on the ballot. If those pass, okay, at this point, see, I'm of the belief that the majority of the people do not want to ban it. We just did the no more new growth, so there already is a ban on it. But we don't need to add more bans, everything, okay? But the majority of the people should rule, okay? I agree with you, David. So if Measure D and Measure C passes, I call on you to stand down for your ban.
Thank you, Bob. Clyde, concluding remarks? I'm sorry, we're so short on time. Forgive me, David. But
okay, I agree with David pretty much what he says on everything. In fact, we have one of his petitions in the barber shop at the Terrace that people's more than welcome to come and sign. And I think I would be an excellent supervisor. I was able to retire when I was 30 years old, and not many people can say that and retire in comfort. And a lot of my property is in the area, so if Valley Springs does good, I do good. If Valley Springs does bad, I do bad. So I have skin in the game, which a lot of people doesn't have. And I would like to see the marijuana thing put aside, by the voters, and be done with. Mm-hmm. And I'd be a great supervisor, and I hope that I would get the support and stuff. And come sign the petition and say hi to me. I'll be there at the barber shop. Thank you. Thank you, Clyde. Bruce, concluding comments.
Yeah, I'm running for supervisor. I'm not running for or against any marijuana initiative. All I know is that if I get elected, I will deal with whatever the people have chosen. And whether that is a ban or whether it is whether it's legalization and regulation, I will work as a fiscal monitor to make certain that whatever monies come in or whatever monies do not come in are spent appropriately, that people will know where their money is going, so they will be able to make more informed decisions than they can now. Because right now I don't even know if the supervisors know how much money is coming in. Of the $3.7 million, I hear our numbers. The Steve Kearney, who says he's so great with numbers, I have not heard a single number on what money has been spent on, and doesn't really know where that money is going in a specific sense. So I think we need supervisors who take a serious, who take the financial stability of this county seriously, and that's why I'm running, and that's why I think you should vote for me. Thank you.
Thank all of you very much for coming. I've been your host, Dana Nichols, and this has been the District 5 Candidates Night. Thank you for watching.
Well done, guys.
Good job.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.